Welcome to the Genuine Driven Women podcast, the show where we guide women to reveal their strengths so they believe and can achieve their desired greatness. This is episode 7, and I'm Tammy, along with my co-host, Adelaida.
Hi, everybody.
On today's show, we are going to talk about spirit crushers that you may encounter in your life. I have personally witnessed a couple of instances in the last month where people in positions of authority are taking actions that are unnecessarily crushing people's spirits. There's a couple examples. One involves elementary age school children, and a teacher can crush somebody's spirit. Or another one that's currently happening in my workplace is a young lady who is very motivated, very energetic, definitely trying to make the world a better place. And she is constantly being met with people who are completely resistant to her efforts, and in such a way that they are even so unhappy with some of her efforts. I'm a little worried that it's even causing enough impact on her career that she could be putting her career in jeopardy because of the people who are unhappy with her, with what she's been doing. It's really unfortunate because what she's doing, if I were to go into detail, isn't bad. What she's been doing is just literally trying to make the world a better place. But the thing is, what she's trying to do is just simply inspire others to change. She's quoting very senior government people and their desire for the same change to occur. We're talking about, Secretary of the Navy, the Chief of Naval Operations, the Secretary of Defense. She's quoting these people and their own vision and mission statements, and that's basically all she's doing. But there are people that are so resistant to change in our workplace that they are taking steps to quiet her and basically suppress her message because of their own desire not to change. And what it's really doing, and although she's got a very powerful spirit and her spirit may not be crushed, I'm watching it happen, and it really makes me sad at the number of people who are not taking care of her but are actually trying to squash her.
That's really sad.
Yeah, and that is, it's the opposite of inspirational, and it's the opposite of how any of us should be in our daily lives.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you have any examples, Adelaida, that you might have seen somebody's spirit being crushed? Not by some outside force, but just by a person, by some person or people that make decisions to crush a person's soul.
Yeah. So I have this one friend who's going to community college right now, and she applied to some colleges, four-year universities, and was hoping that she would get into this one specific college. She has been doing really well in school, getting the grades, doing extra things. She's been doing extracurricular activities. She got a letter back from them, and it ended up being a rejection letter. And it really did crush her spirit because she really wanted to get into that one specific university, and
yes, she
wasn't able to. And she, there wasn't really anything that she could have done. She's been doing really good in school, and it really.
Yeah, and sometimes universities just have quotas, or X number of students are going to let in, and sometimes they just draw a line.
Yeah.
And and if your friend just ended up on the wrong side of that line, it has nothing to do with her or what she is doing in her life. It's just this arbitrary line that some universities draw without any understanding.
Yeah, and it definitely crushes your spirit whenever you hear back from those schools.
Yes, that's a really good example, because it is very similar. You kind of get this dream, and if you get a rejection letter from a college, or you apply for a job and maybe you get word that you didn't get the job, I mean, those instances definitely have ways of crushing your spirit, because they kind of give you that moment of going, ugh, I wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
But you got to fight on through that. And that's kind of partly what we're going to talk about today.
Another story that I have about spirit crushers is my little brother. He goes to school, elementary school right now, and he recently came home with a behavior slip because he told his team, they got in groups, and he told his team, go team. But his teacher might have been talking during that, or didn't like how he was bursting out in class. Maybe he was a little bit too loud or louder than the other kids. And so she wrote a behavior slip for him. And that one is soul crushing to me.
Yeah. And
spirit crushing.
Yeah. I think you could say spirit crushing or soul crushing. They're probably interchangeable.
And I mean, that one for me is spirit crushing just because he's trying to tell his team, we got this, go team. And his teacher's like, oh, no. Don't.
Yeah, because the teacher at that point is more focusing on this child is being loud when he should be quiet. And the way I look at that one, I mean, I will say your brother is very social and is frequently talks when he ought to be listening to the teacher.
Yes.
But I do think there's a fine line. And in a case like that, if there is a child who's motivated and trying to inspire their team, there probably are times that teachers can overlook a corrective action when really that if what they're trying to do is be a great team member, does the teacher really not want him to be a good team member?
Yeah.
So, trust me, and just if anybody is judging, I'm his mother and he gets other behavior slips and I'm fully on board with that teacher giving him those behavior slips. But this particular one, getting in trouble for saying go team, I wasn't a big fan of that one.
Yeah. And I definitely feel like schools in general, not just this one specific teacher, they can be spirit crushers because they want all these kids to be one certain way. Don't talk, listen, pay attention. And everyone is different.
Yeah, they have different ways of learning.
Yes.
Different ways of interacting. They have different dreams.
Yes, and
personalities.
You can't exactly, and you shouldn't try to conform them all into one person because that's not going to happen.
And I understand why teachers do what they do because they have so many students and they're just trying to get through the day and try to keep some order. Because if they let them all be who they are, that would be a jumble of craziness.
Yeah, it would.
But at the same point, there's probably it's okay if the teachers have a little bit of understanding with when somebody is showing positive spirit as well.
Yes.
So, yeah, the feeling when someone crushes your spirit, those times are very memorable. They kind of burn into your soul, and they can be hard to push from your mind. We all want to be valued, listened to, and respected among our friends, at school, and at our workplaces.
Parents, teachers, coworkers, and supervisors at work, to name a few, are all capable of cutting us to the quick when they say something careless.
Yeah, it's when you really bare your soul and share an idea for improvement, or a dream, or sometimes just simple optimism. And then at those times, somebody directly and intentionally responds to you in a negative way that it can truly crush your spirit. It's when you really bare your soul and share an idea for improvement, a dream, or sometimes simple optimism, and then somebody directly and intentionally responds in a negative way that it can truly crush your spirit.
When you are struggling to find your place in this world, or when you know your purpose and are pushing hard to reach your full potential, spirit-crushing moments have a way of setting you back or completely stopping progress towards your dream or goal.
We cannot control other people, but we can do two things. First, we can make a decision to never crush anyone else's spirit, and two, we can make a decision about how we will react to these moments.
Soul-crushing people might be intentional, or they may just be careless in how they are interacting with you.
You might be able to put the moment into perspective if you know that they are not usually like this, or if you can decide that they are simply distracted or busy. Just because something hurts does not mean it was intentional.
Sometimes people intentionally crush your dreams because they love you and believe they have your best interests at heart. This still does not make it right, but it might help you deal with it a little better.
Instances like this might be a parent that wants you to get an engineering degree or a pre-med degree rather than something you would rather do that's more perfect for you. And maybe it's simply just because they think it'll be easier for you to get a job in the future.
This is an example of them pushing their dream for you. And if your dream is different than theirs, this could lead to years of misery. You may get into your third year of college and realize this is not at all the career path you want to be on, or you may successfully graduate and start working in that career and wake up 5 years into your career and realize you really hate your life.
Yeah, I've actually known people like this and read about these people, especially people who later on in life started their own business. But when they talk about spending like 10 years in a job they hated, that sounds horrible.
Yeah, it does.
So let's talk about intentional spirit crushing people. Well, let's call them what they really are. Bullies. According to overcomebullying.org, workplace bullies can be separated into the following types.
First, the screaming Mimi. We've all seen or heard the screaming Mimi. They are loud, obnoxious, and in your face. With their little faces turning beet red and their neck veins popping, they will go on tirades, spew venom, humiliate you. They are right and you are wrong, and you are going to hear about it.
Oh my goodness, this type of person, the screaming Mimi, they are in the military, especially when I was young, like back in the early 90s. Before, there's been a lot of changes in the military over the past 2 decades. But way back this was like one of the main kinds, just people who screamed. It was so fascinating. But it happens a lot less today. Have you ever had this kind of boss in your workplace, or any coworkers that were like this?
I don't think I have.
Yeah, it's not that common anymore, so I'm glad if you haven't. The second type is the two-headed snake. This type of workplace bully is one of the most dangerous because you may not even realize you're dealing with a bully until after they have already destroyed your reputation.
To your face, they may act like a friend, but they will slander your character and steal credit for your work while telling you they are your biggest fan.
Yeah, those kind of horrible.
Yeah, I've definitely had bosses and coworkers that have been the two-headed snake, where they will act like they're your friend and you'll confide in them. Maybe you'll say something to them and they will definitely ruin your reputation because they're not your friend.
Yeah, I think this is actually, sadly, a very common type of bully in a workplace.
Yeah, it is.
People that are fake to your face and then do kind of evil things behind your back. Where I am right now, it could be this is happening, but I don't really notice it. So I think in my current workplace, this is not happening very often. So that's kind of nice.
Yeah, I feel like, at least with me, since I'm in a younger crowd right now, it's happening more where I'm at because people my age tend to gossip more, tend to tell people secrets, and
also possibly be more insecure at that age because you're trying to get ahead and you don't really know so there's some people who will think to themselves, the way I'm going to get ahead is by bringing everybody else down.
Yeah, and that's not the way to do it.
No, that's horrible. So the third type that we're going to talk about is the constant critic. This bully's goal is to dismantle other people's confidence through constant and often unwarranted criticism. A critic will look for any possible flaw in someone's work and then will labor tirelessly to kill that person's credibility. So this is just, the kind of person that basically is walking around telling everybody what they're doing wrong all the time. And there is one person in our workplace that will randomly just walk into our space and say, well, one of these days I'm going to have to save everything you guys are doing here. Basically saying that he's the only one that's good and everybody else is a mess. And it's constant. And it is constant.
Yes, it's constant. And that's also, it doesn't have to be just in a workplace as well, but in friend groups I've had in the past and even now, there's the constant critic where they will constantly pick at you whenever we're hanging out or in a group environment.
Oh, yeah.
They always want to say something negative about everyone. Yeah. And it brings the whole group vibe down.
Yep. I've had friends like that in my past too, that act like they're your family, act like they're your best friend, but literally say bad things about you and anybody else in the group all the time. Extremely judgmental and then constantly pointing out everybody's flaws.
Yeah. It's very toxic.
Yeah, it's exhausting.
Yeah, no one wants to be friends with those people.
No.
If you go to overcomebullying.org, you will find several other types of workplace bullies, but we just wanted to cover a few today.
So if you are a leader at any level, you should be careful about some behaviors you do without thinking that may tend to beat your team down. Here are some things that leaders inadvertently do that crush people's souls.
1, they are a control freak or a micromanager. You may think you are simply detail-oriented or that your experience makes this practice okay, but what it really does is makes the team believe you do not trust them.
In many cases, they will start to think, well, what does it even matter? He will just tell me exactly how I should do it anyway. And right there, you killed their innovation, their creativity, and probably their motivation. If this continues, you will cause high turnover on your teams.
They treat people they lead like they are not valuable, like they are literally worth less than the leader. If you treat your team like they are your servants rather than amazing people who are learning and growing, or if you forget they are major enablers to the overall success of the team, they will find somewhere else to work. No one on this planet wants to be treated like a second-class citizen, especially your own team.
Yes. And you definitely see this. Some people just believe that they are the king of the workplace and that all the people that work with them or that they supervise are basically their subjects to be ruled. And
Yeah, and
that's not a way to do it. I don't see this very often, but I do see it sometimes.
I've seen it too, and it's not somewhere where me or anyone else would want to work.
No, that's a horrible place to work. Another thing that leaders do to crush their people's souls is that they use a very heavy-handed approach to decision making. This is a my way or the highway kind of leadership. This is very archaic. It's very old school type thinking. Basically, the leader will just declare they are right. They'll make every decision, and it will majorly shut down a team. Any innovation, process improvement, or any other creativity will be lost. Nothing will change, and your team will probably begin to find ways to actively work against you in this situation.
Lastly, they show favoritism. A leader who is very obvious about who their favorite people are in a workplace will definitely crush the spirit of many people in the workforce. It is also possible they could hurt the spirit of the one who is the favorite, because if the entire workforce knows that one person is the boss's favorite, they may all treat that one person poorly or exclude them from collaborative activities.
Yeah, this entire situation is horrible for morale and will make the workplace very toxic. It is a much better option to treat everybody as ethically and fairly as possible. If most people believe their contribution matters, then the overall climate will be a much more positive level.
What can you do if you feel like someone is crushing your spirit, but they may not mean to hurt you?
In this case, the best thing really is to have an honest conversation with the other person and see if their behavior can be rectified.
Another option, if you feel it was not on purpose, is to forgive them and move on, especially if it's rare.
Yeah, I think a lot of people like parents and others, or, just general friends, whatever, people say careless things and you just have to decide if it barely ever happens, you just really need to forgive them.
Yeah.
So what can you do if you feel like you are the victim of a very intentional workplace bully? The first thing is do not blame yourself. You never deserve to be treated so poorly in your workplace.
Try not to overthink it and try not to think about it away from the workplace.
Yeah, and one important step is definitely get it documented. Get it documented some way over and over. This includes any meeting where you report it to a supervisor or HR, the times and details of the occurrences, where you were bullied, and any formal or informal grievances you may file. Make sure that everything written is just pure fact without any emotion.
Also, make sure if you are going to report the bully or if you are going to start documenting it, that it really is inappropriate behavior. If you are doing shoddy work and your boss gives you fair, honest feedback, that is not necessarily bullying you.
And then seriously, do not wait to report the problems. If you feel a workplace bully is lurking inside your organization, you need to take care of it. Remember, you were put on this earth for a purpose. If you are a true, genuine, driven woman, then you are focused on doing the right thing and making the world a better place, both for yourself and for others. Do not allow others to crush your spirit. Be strong. And if you do encounter a true workplace bully, then report them. You will not only help yourself, but many others as well. Successful women back in time.
In the time travel segment each week, we will give you a few points about women that have accomplished a lot. We also will discuss a bit about what was happening to women during the time periods. Someone we think you would like to know more about is Michelle Obama. She was the first African-American First Lady of the United States. She is also a promoter of healthy families, service members, and international adolescent girls' education. Michelle grew up on the south side of Chicago with her parents and brother. She was a very gifted young girl. In middle school, she was put in French and accelerated courses in biology. She also graduated from her high school, one of the first that was put up in her city for gifted kids, as a salutatorian. From there, she went to Princeton and received a Bachelor of Arts in Sociology, and then went on to Harvard Law School and received a law degree. Soon after this, she became the advisor to Barack, where after numerous attempts on Barack's side, they ended up falling in love.
Aww.
Once Barack became president, she began to volunteer at different places like homeless shelters and soup kitchens, and also made appearances at public schools and would talk about the importance of education and volunteer work. In the final speech she gave as First Lady, she spoke to the younger Americans, saying, "I want our young people to know that they matter, that they belong. So don't be afraid. You hear me, young people? You hear me, young people? Don't be afraid. Be focused. Be determined. Be hopeful. Be empowered." Empower yourself with a good education. Then get out there and use that education to build a country worthy of your boundless promise. Lead by example with hope. Never fear.
Woo, I love that.
Yeah,
I love that quote.
That quote really, when I was reading it, that really touched me.
Yes. And I don't think it matters which side of or which portion of the political spectrum you're on. Her quote here, how can you argue with that?
No. So. And in this day and age, women are now having more rights, more equality to men. And one thing that I really like about her is that she's able to continue to inspire young people to grow, to become the best them that they can be.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I completely agree. The motivational quote of the week.
I've never had to unscrew another woman's light bulb to shine unknown. This quote is so right. Whatever you want to do in life, it will be even better if you bring other women to the top with you. We can all shine bright together, helping each other along the way.
Yeah, I love it. Basically, it's saying that you don't have to make another woman lose her shine. That's what it's saying. You don't have to make somebody else lose their shine just so you can shine brighter.
Yeah, and we just talked about this earlier in the podcast too, where you don't have to bring other people down to get to the top. You can bring them up with you.
Yes.
You can all succeed, which is what we want.
That's how I feel. If you can just get everybody working together, you can all make yourselves rise, and you can all make yourselves help each other and network, give each other feedback, find a nice, open, honest way to work together, and you can all rise. There's no reason that you can't all rise.
Genuine driven women read lots of books. We'll make sure to recommend a book each week that will inspire you or help you on your journey to success.
This week's book is Forged in Crisis by Nancy Kien. If you'd like to buy this book in any format, including audiobooks, click through to the show notes where you can find a link. I absolutely loved this book, and I know that you will too. It's a story of 5 different historical figures who were normal people, just like you and me. The leadership insights covered in this book will be of interest to a wide range of listeners, including those in government, business, education, and even artistic people. Harvard Business School historian Nancy Kien wrote Forged in Crisis, and she puts the spotlight on 5 masters of crisis. They are the polar explorer Ernest Shackleton, President Abraham Lincoln, the legendary abolitionist Frederick Douglass, Nazi-resisting clergyman Dietrich Bonhoeffer, and the environmental crusader Rachel Carson. What do each of these 5 very different historical figures have in common? Why do their extraordinary stories continue to amaze and inspire? In her book, Nancy Kien answers those questions and offers remarkable examples by which to judge leaders in our own time today. She begins each of the book's 5 sections by showing her protagonist on the precipice of a great crisis. Shackleton is marooned on an Arctic ice floe. Lincoln is on the verge of seeing the Union collapse. The escaped slave Douglass is facing possible capture. Bonhoeffer is agonizing over how to counter absolute evil with faith, and Carson is racing against the cancer ravaging her body in a bid to save the planet. The narrative then reaches back to each person's childhood and shows the individual growing step by step into the person that they will ultimately become. As we follow each leader's against all odds journey, we begin to glean an essential truth. Leaders are not born, but made. In a book dense with epiphanies, the most galvanizing one may be that the power to lead courageously resides in each one of us. Yes, this book is essential reading for a genuine driven woman. And again, you can click through to the show notes to buy this book. We genuinely want to know what you're thinking. This is the section where you ask questions. Let us know what's on your mind, or just say hello. Are you driven to succeed? Then email us at genuinedrivenwomen, that's women, WOMEN, at gmail.com, or call us at 724-DRIVEN, the number 2. In other words, that's 724-374-8362, and leave us a voicemail. We will use your voicemails on a future podcast. We look forward to hearing from you. The Genuine Driven Women podcast is produced every week for your inspiration education, and enjoyment. The show notes and so much more can be found at genuinedrivenwomen.com. Please subscribe to this show via iTunes and Stitcher to receive ongoing weekly motivation to turn your dreams into goals and to reach your version of success. We'd love for you to take a couple minutes to write a review on iTunes, which will help us to reach our goal to connect with girls, young ladies, and women who need just this kind of inspiration every week. You can also follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/genuinedrivenwomen. There you can join the conversation, get to know us better, and find out about all the new things that we will be announcing in the months to come. Okay, ladies, it's time to get out there and be the best you that you can be. We'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.